In 1920, the Prohibition Law was passed. Business people needed reliable transportation for their illicit cargoes. Soon they started modifying their vehicles. The automobile still looked the same, but outran the police by going up to 119 miles per hour. The runners began racing each other on weekends, and the sport became more popular over the years. It was June 19, 1950. The nation's first commercial drag strip was opened in Orange County by C.J. Pappy Hart, Frank Stillwell, and Creighton Hunter. It would later close after 9 years to expand the John Wayne Airport. They used an unused runway at John Wayne Airport in Santana. Observers would pay 50 cents to watch, and racers paid $1 to compete. Business was good. Life was good. Reasons and ways for street racing changed, but its enthusiasm would remain the same.
Parallel culture, caught up in a world of modified cars and pure speed. We're talking about illegal street races.
I got involved in racing at the age of 16. When I got my first car, one of the kids at school wanted to race me, and so when I beat him, I was hooked.
For the adrenaline, because when you're going like at that fast, it can get really exciting, and I guess people like fall in love with the adrenaline that you get from that, you know.
Young man who was arrested for having a chop shop in his garage. A chop shop is where you work in your garage and some of the items may be stolen. He said he was building cars for his friends who would do racing, etc. But we didn't have a court order to tell him to shut down the shop. Found an MTV TV show called Illegal Street Racing. And when I saw this young man speaking to the camera, that was Eugene. And that was the garage.
I was with my friend. I was actually in the car too. It was pretty cool. I was in the passenger seat. I was scared because they were going really quick. I'm not used to it. Once they win, they come back to the meet.
Normally in Santa Ana, you don't really get to like experience it because it's not like everywhere nowadays, you know? Like before, you like just do it whatever, but now it's like you have to be super low key about it. It doesn't have to be professional racing. It could just be like on your home streets.
The main road we used to race was called Ornsthorpe Avenue. It was in Yorba Linda. We would race there. This is in the 90s. So I'd always take my license plates off, put them in my trunk. That way, when I was it'd get seen by the cops, when I got away, they couldn't catch me.
I think I want to go back because it's pretty cool because you get meet like some cool people. There is a lot of cops. Like a lot of cops come to the scene. They make a big deal about it, but people are like already like, oh, if I do this is gonna happen. Like they're careful about their cars.
One of my friends actually lived close to where we raced. So what would end up happening is if the cops did show up, which happened once or twice, all we had to do was make a couple of turns before they could catch us, pull my car onto the side of my friend's house, close the gate, and go straight into his garage and start playing video games until the cops were gone.
Deputies are back. Why? Because these guys are back. It's a subculture, and they work in clusters, and they won't go away. The bottom line, racing. It's what it's all about.
Of course, we raced for money. That was the whole end game of it. And that's how a lot of us would either build or not build our cars.
Obviously somewhat organized because they tend to all show up at once.
At around 16 years old, I started getting involved into street racing because my older brother had been a street racer for a couple of years, and the money he would make off of his races caught my attention. I first got introduced to street racing when my brother invited me to join him as a passenger in one of his races. My brother organized his races by putting in money on the table. Then racers pitch in an entry fee, which is usually a good 100. Depending on racers, in total winners average about 1,000 to 2,000 in one night.
And we believe it's a product of the Fast and Furious type subculture.
I raced for Pinks before. It was actually with a friend of mine. He brought his dad's Corvette to race my Mustang. Fortunately, my driving skills were better than his. He lost his dad's Corvette to me, but unfortunately, I could not take the Corvette. Because if I did, his dad would have called my dad and my street racing days would have been over. So since I knew my friend had a lot of money, I basically told him, okay, bring me $5,000 tomorrow at school and we'll call it even. And so he gave me the money at school the next day.
Now, before we went in, we saw the car that we saw on the NTV show parked outside. As we talked to Eugene, hey, Gene, you seem pretty popular. He acted like he didn't know what we were talking about. And being that type of probation officer, I turned on the TV, and there it was, that MTV episode. And we watched it. It was pretty interesting. Until it said, I wonder what my probation officer would say. And we said, your probation officer, stand up, you're under arrest. We took the tape and we took it to court. He was found in violation. But years later, Eugene came back to both me and my partner and said, thank you for the arrest. You forced me out of street racing into a legal industry of helping at racing on tracks that are safe.